Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Hey, welcome to episode 72 of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here to be your guide through the crazy jungle that is motorsports sponsorship. I have a vision that supercross racers, ATV racers, snowcross, backcountry, dirt track, NASCAR, whatever it is, my vision is that you all can learn how to better market yourself and drive more value for your sponsors. That's why this show exists. I can't do this alone, though. I need help. Today, the person that's going to come on and give tips, tricks, and advice is the Arctic Cat, Black Cat, and X Games freestyle star, Cory Davis. Now, before I get into the interview and the structure, I have a few things to cover with you. I would love to get your feedback and also show iTunes that this show is here to stay. So please go on iTunes, leave a rating and review. I actually am going to read our latest rating and review. I've been reading those on this show. This one comes from one of our previous guests, actually, Scott Sparrow. He was on episode 70, and you're going to find out why that's important in a minute. He says this in his 5-star rating: anyone looking to level up or break into the sponsorship world needs to listen to this podcast, especially episode 70. Just kidding. Josh and all of his guests do a great job informing the listener of the ins and outs of the sponsorship world, and you will inevitably get some good book recommendations also. So I really appreciate him leaving that rating and review. And I do encourage you to go back and listen to the episode. Scott is a super inspirational guy, so check it out. Also, whatever podcast player you are on, whether it's Google Play or iTunes or whatever, subscribe. That's the best way to ensure that you don't miss upcoming guests. We have 2 superstars coming up. Snowcross legend Blair Morgan is up next, and then motocross freestylist Brett Q. Huge guests. Super excited to bring him on. And our live version of the show is kicking off on the Sponsored Rider Club Facebook page. So if you check that out, we just had George Hamill on the live show April 23rd. So that was, if you're listening to this on the day this show released, it was last night. So phenomenal work by George as well. He was originally on episode 23. Now this show was brought to you by 5 awesome companies. SolderWeld, they produce game-changing metal bonding technology. TopThePodium.com, they're experts in motorsports sponsorship. Bold Racing and Suspension, they're a family race team and custom suspension experts. Crash Addict Industries, they produce extreme metal fab and safety products. And then Armor Cote, they make your cleanup easier. I also want to take a minute to give a shout out to some of our other partners, including MBRP, HMK, Studboy Traction, and One Stop Performance. Now, the structure of this podcast is set up like a race. We begin with the qualifier, which is basic intro. In Heat 1, we'll dive into Cory's background. In Heat 2, we'll discuss sponsorship tactics and strategies. And then in the main event, we'll discuss mindset. We'll end at the finish line where we get closing comments and contact info for Cory. Without further ado, let's hop in. Cory, why don't you fill in the gaps from that intro and tell us a little bit about yourself?
From Alaska, born and raised. Started off my career dirt biking. My dad was a racer of all sorts, snow machine, dirt bike, mainly dirt bikes. Kind of how I got into it. I raced in Alaska and kind of took to sleds more than I did bikes, I guess, and ended up becoming a professional snowcross racer. Had some injuries, and I just kind of maybe not necessarily fell out of love with it, but didn't. It wasn't where I wanted to be at anymore. Kind of transitioned into freestyle. Always had really enjoyed the freestyle backcountry part of snowmobiling, which I did anyways for fun. But I decided to try to pursue the actual ramping. And so that's kind of where I'm at now is, I also do cross country racing. I've won the Iron Dog, which is the world's longest cross country snow machine race. And did cross country racing in the States as well. So kind of anything on a snowmobile I'm interested in. And at this point in my career, I'm just kind of enjoying doing stuff I want to do. So
that's awesome, man. I'm going to dive deeper into some of those details, but the first thing I want to highlight is the Iron Dog race. that's one of the secret selfish reasons why I wanted to have you on the show too, is to hear more about that. That's been something that's been kind of like brewing in a bucket list item for me. Is I feel like I could do an endurance snowmobile race one day in my life, but I haven't really talked to anybody that's done it before, so here we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, so I'll probably ask some more questions about it later on too, because I just think it's such a cool thing. I love snowmobiling. That's one of the reasons actually why I started this podcast. I just love snowmobiling and talking about it. But yeah, just something about getting out there doing an endurance run, you and nature, snowmobile. I mean, I don't know if it gets much better than that.
It's a really unique race, and it's the cool part about it is you're competitive even at it. Like it's not I-500 a race like that when it's such a long race like the Iron Dog, 2,000 miles.
Yeah.
You're not able to ride all out. So it creates a really weird dynamic when you're racing, but you're not going as fast as you can necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing. It definitely took me a couple years to kind of, first year I went with my dad and we got third. That was pretty cool. But, the whole time I felt like we were moving backwards. We were going so slow.
Oh yeah.
and then fast forward to doing it a few years with my teammate, Ryan Simons, and, all we did was just break stuff. So it definitely took us a little bit I think it was our fifth year of doing it, or fourth or fifth year, but when we got our first win. So, or our win, we only had one of them. So
yeah, that's cool, man. 2,000 miles is incredible. I mean, a lot of the desert races out there, they're 500 miles, 1,000 miles, like Baja 1,000, but double that, 2,000. How many days does it take to do that run?
So you're doing it, and you're starting on Sunday and finishing on Saturday.
Okay.
But your riding time is only like 40 hours,
okay.
45 hours
only.
around there. So they have it broke up with layovers and things like that, where so you're riding for 6 days, but the riding time is minimal. And then we have a 24-hour hold in Nome. And we got to take, I can't remember. I'm probably the least best person to talk to about some of the finer things of it. Cause some of the, a lot of the guys, most of the guys in the race, it is the only thing they do. So they know the race inside out, backwards. And, but I know it's like, 30-ish hours of layovers northbound. Then you take a 24-hour in Nome. And then you can do in Nome, we bring all the sleds into a garage, and you can do repairs on the clock. It's not like there's no free time. Everything you do comes off your total time. And then,
okay.
So it's different in like the I-500 in that aspect. So that's when you start kind of seeing the chess aspect of it come in, where the guys that might have not been in first place in a Nome, all of a sudden they just did 10 minutes of work, and the guys that were first in a Nome did 2 hours or an hour and a half or something. So It starts really kind of getting interesting about halfway through it.
That's awesome, man. So I mean, you went through your background there and talked about some of your transitions. Let's go back real quick to the snowcross piece. How'd you get into snowcross, and what's some of the cool things you did in that sport?
I started racing in Alaska, and kind of, as you guys could probably imagine, Alaska's not the biggest place. So once I got around the age of 12, it kind of started to be where I was running out of, I'm racing up classes, and not really about the only people that are faster than me at that time were adults. And so, and it was something I enjoyed at the time, and my dad was still racing. I still enjoy it. I love snowcross racing, but that was my passion at that point in my life. And so when I was 13, we went south, and the motorhome and trailer gig and homeschool, and just like you would be if you were doing the dirt bike dream. And lived in northern Minnesota at Kirk Hibbert's house, and worked on our sleds there, and homeschooled, and went around and did all the regional races. And I did that for I got picked up by Arctic Cat Factory when I was 16. So I guess I did that for 3 winters. I went out and raced, and I didn't do full seasons. I don't think I maybe did the first 2 years. And I was just kind of going, I think it might've been just the first part of the season. I'm not 100% sure, but when I was 16, I flew down and did a couple races in Gaylord, and then I did Lake Geneva, and then after Lake Geneva, I'd gotten I moved up to semi-pro, I think, and gotten a podium in Lake Geneva, and then I signed with Cat that over the summer.
Okay. So Gaylord is only a couple hours drive. Well, maybe it's like 4 hours drive from where I live, so pretty near and dear to home.
I love the Midwest. The only thing I really didn't like about it is I got homesick pretty bad not seeing mountains. But that was about it. Everybody there, there's still, I still have some real true friends there in the Midwest part of America. So, but yeah, then after I went pro, I was on the Arctic Cat factory team. They had 2 teams at the time. Sean Crapo was the lead on the other team, and Curtis, or I might be mixing that up, but there was 2 Arctic Cat teams. Did that for a while. I eventually ended up being I was teammates with Curtis Crapo, and I might have been just Curtis, and then I ended up with Ryan, and then I was with Ryan. It was Ryan and I for pretty much almost my entire career until he retired.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did a couple years while he had retired. So it was him and I, and did that for 3-ish years, I think. And then Cat cut that team, just downsized a little bit. But it was a coordinated effort with Christian Brothers. So then our mechanics, Hector and Cory, myself and Ryan, went over to Christian Brothers and Cat cut and cost, and did that for a few years. Then Ryan retired, and then I continued racing for Christian Brothers, and had a really bad foot injury when I was right around 21. I think I was riding freestyle dirt bikes, and ended up getting my foot caught in the front of the peg, and when I landed, and it ripped underneath, and dislocated, broke everything in my foot. They thought they were going to have to amputate it for a while.
Oh, wow.
And so then I took a winter off. Just I had to. I was out because it was kind of in the end of summer when that happened. And I didn't really wasn't very intuitive at that moment, I guess, in my life, because I didn't really catch on that I wasn't really missing it as badly as somebody should be. It kind of turned into a little bit of a job for me, I guess. And
yeah.
I had done 2 national championships as a semi-pro. I transitioned when I was transitioning into the pro class. I don't know if maybe the stuff at the semi-pro level maybe came a little bit easier or too easy for me. I didn't really have much motivation to be in the gym and or practice. And I don't know. I just kind of got to the point where I thought it wasn't fair to the team and the mechanics that I wasn't taking it seriously as I felt I should. So that's when I, decided that I wanted to try something else, and pulled out of that and came home and, started focusing more on the freestyle.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and you've been doing the freestyle thing. You said you've been joining that too. So what caused that transition though?
I don't know. I love the Christian Brother family, and they're amazing. They really were. And I don't know if maybe it was just my stubborn. I maybe have a touch of a problem with authority, and Dwight is as authority as it gets. And I don't know if maybe him and I just butted heads a little bit, and I might have just indulged in that a little bit because like I said, I might have a little problem there, but it just kind of got to the point where I wanted to be able to make my own decisions, and I wanted to. I don't know. I wanted to be free, I guess, and I at that point I'd been doing it my entire life. I up until I quit racing snowcross, I raced moto all summer and raced sleds all winter, so I really had no break in my life there of anything else. So I think it's just something I outgrew, and maybe, like I said, I tend to look back at it and think that it might have just come a little too easy to me in my younger years, which didn't really set me up to be motivated and have the work ethic for it. And once the once the athleticism of being, 16 and 18 wore off, it just seemed like I didn't have what it took to be that upper level. So I was running out of gas, 3/4 of the way through races and stuff. And, that's just not acceptable if you're getting paid to ride a snowmobile. So.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, what about black cats, man? What about the Arctic Cat black cats? Tell us about that.
So the black cats deal is, Rob Kincaid, Dave McClue, Brett Turcotte, and myself. And, Brett kind of did a similar story as me, I guess, as far as, our career paths, and ended up in this backcountry riding, freestyle, spectrum of a rider. And, Rob and Dave hill climbing and also filming and stuff. And I'd like to think it was partly my fault, but I don't really know. But I had mentioned a couple of times to Arctic Cat and said, you have 4 of the best riders on the planet. And like what we should be doing more with showing us off, like, instead of just, we have snowmobiles and we go out and ride them, let's do something with it. And, Kale, Wiener, he and, Derek from marketing side of Cat, kind of came up with a little brainchild of the black cats, which is just, it's an old terminology from, black cat was a thing in the, I don't even know, I'm going to probably botch this, but in the, 80s, I think.
I don't know.
80s of, yeah, I don't know either, but it's an older term from racing, and, it kind of fit, I guess. And so really what the overall goal is, we're trying to sell Arctic Cat snowmobiles and accessories. So, they're taking the sleds and they're kind of pimping them out with all of the stuff that Arctic Cat and Speedwerx makes. And then, we're supposed to go out and show what they can do. So that's kind of where it's at. And it has been a little on the confusing side for some people, because it doesn't know if is it a sled or, what exactly are we doing here? But, ultimately they're trying to make, cool sleds and then go do cool stuff with them.
Yeah, I like it. It's, for me, I think it's the only team that I've seen that isn't a dedicated race team. It's a little bit of backcountry, a little bit of freestyle, a little bit of everything, but it's still obviously connected to the Arctic Cat brand. So I remember when it first came out, I was pretty excited. Just like you said too, some of the best riders in the world all just hanging out and sharing social media and doing real cool stuff. So I thought it was a cool idea. I was always curious of where it came from and how that stuff came about. And from your standpoint of saying, you hope you had something to do with it, I'm sure you did, right? And I think that's one of the benefits that sponsored riders can bring to their sponsors and their partners, is to suggest things like that. Hey, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe it does though. And you throw something out there like that and it can blow up pretty quickly. I mean, it seems like the Black Cats campaign has had some success behind it.
Yeah. And the gears grind slow in a bigger corporation.
Yeah.
When you start talking about Arctic Cat, it's not, you just can't drop of a hat, make things like that happen. So, stuff could have been in the works for a long time, but the team it's a cool thing. And like you said, it's kind of cool for them to do a quote unquote team with, basically backcountry riding. And it's been a fun thing to do. And being more and more involved with the mountainside of Arctic Cat is really cool, because, get to see some stuff come down the pipes. And, I think a lot of times people might forget that when you're sponsored, at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is make that company more money. So how do we make this thing look the coolest and better than everything else? So that's the goal.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, I think it's a pretty cool thing. Well, cool. I mean, that was a pretty good summary of your background. Is there anything else you want to add, things that maybe we missed, or that's something you kind of want to pull out to share with the audience?
I guess the only thing I really forgot is I did go and ride for Yamaha for one season. And I got an offer after I'd won my first championship, and to come and do come over to Yamaha, and they wanted to develop the 4-stroke, and that was right after Robbie. I came in after Robbie had left, and Steve Taylor and myself, and it just wasn't a great fit, but I learned a valuable lesson with that. I think it probably had more to do with my problem with authority there.
Yeah.
And that was, even going from an even bigger company, a big company to a bigger one.
Right.
And so that was a little bit of a challenge for me there, but it ended up being not something that worked out, but it was a very, very valuable lesson I learned there with going, never doing anything for money. I decided from there on, the money wouldn't make my decision. It would be, whatever I was trying to accomplish goal wise, that would be what ultimately I made the call on. So.
And I like that you said that too, because there's, I guess there's a reality that regardless of what company you're working with, there's still human beings there, and you're still a human being. There's still a culture, and there has to be a fit. You can work for a company as an employee or as a sponsored rider, whatever it may be, but it still has to be the right fit. And people sometimes they have to shift around until they find that right fit. There's nothing wrong with that. I think the only time it's a problem is if you don't do anything about it and you just suffer through it, or if you just put up with it, or they just put up with you. And I think it's good to recognize if things aren't the right fit and make changes as a result.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those things where I knew that not only did I knew, but they knew that I wasn't happy, and I honestly thought I could tell that they weren't happy as well. So it was something that we were able to amicably part and not have there was no litigation or anything, because I was in for a 2-year contract, and it was just simply something that it wasn't the right fit, and we were able to, both parties were able to just move forward.
That's awesome. I mean, I was going to ask this question later anyways, but I mean, it kind of came up as I like to understand if people have run into a challenging situation with a sponsor, and how do they handle that, and what can they learn from it. So, I mean, this is a good example, right? I think the pinnacle of some sponsorship programs is the factory riders, right? Like getting a business with a factory OEM. And I mean, you had that, right? It might be a hard thing to walk away from, but it looks like you were able to work that out in the right way. You said amicably, work it out in the right way, not even violate any contracts, not even have to go in any of the legal things, and split, and it'd be better for both of you.
Yeah, and I think that the writing was clearly on the wall when it came down to that point. I had been hurt 2 times in the season, and I was clearly not happy, and I think that it might have just been kind of tainted from the beginning, and no repairing it, and it was but I mean, at the same time, I have a ton of respect for all those guys that I worked with, and they were all extremely hardworking guys, and it wasn't a great fit, but like I said, I learned a valuable lesson from that money was never going to be the motivator for me. It was going to be, whatever I felt was the best way to achieve my goals at the end of the day. And if that meant that it was riding for, really what had happened is I gotten money thrown, waved around in my face. And up until that point, the only money as a semi-pro in those days, and I don't even know, maybe still now, was contingency and, winnings. There wasn't a whole lot of money for semi-pro rider, just as salary. So, I was looking at a large sum of money for a salary base pay, and then, a very healthy contingency to get that Yamaha on the podium. And, it just was, being 18 years old, it was pretty hard to turn away from.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's good. I appreciate you sharing the story too. 'Cause I'm sure at the time, that was probably a pretty challenging situation. So I'm glad you're able to figure it out, and then also again, share it with us right now.
Absolutely.
Well, cool, man. Well, I think this is a good point to do the transition. It's, you just kind of mentioned a sponsorship challenge, and in the Heat 2, we're going to dive really deeper into sponsorship tactics and strategies. But right before we get there, I'd like to take a minute to thank the sponsors for this podcast. I am constantly asking the guests of this podcast how they attract and retain sponsors, and on almost every single occasion, somebody gives an example of a resume. A rider or a racer resume is extremely important to your overall sponsorship pitch and proposal. And it's tough to do. I mean, it's not really the easiest thing. Anybody can go through and put together a resume, so don't get me wrong there, but it's really difficult to get something that's like unique and different and stands out, and that also is something that can be put across multiple platforms. Well, that's one of the things that I want to talk to you about next, is how topthepodium.com can actually help you build a race or rider resume that can be used on multiple platforms. I'm talking like website, PDF, something you can print off that's interactive, that looks fantastic. It looks absolutely professional. Well, that's because it's made by a professional. This is the type of thing that's going to set you apart from the crowd, and that's going to position you for a strong sponsorship proposal. So what I want you to do next is go to topthepodium.com, and if you have a question, there's a little chat icon that pops up on the side of the screen when you go to topthepodium.com, and you can go ahead and type your question right there. Jeff Vanestal, he is the owner of Top the Podium. He's going to be able to respond to you directly, so check it out. I hear it constantly from racers that a good suspension setup is absolutely critical for performance, and that's why I'm going to talk to you next about bold racing and suspension. Now, it's really critical to understand your suspension, and there's so many intricacies with the valving and the shims and all this crazy equipment that you need to actually rebuild and properly set up your suspension, that it's really important, if you're ready for that next level of performance, to partner with an awesome suspension company. Now, Bold Racing is that company. They're not only specialists with their suspension setups, but they also partner with companies that produce amazing custom components. And on top of that, they're a family race team. They actually race themselves, so they really understand the type of beating that your vehicle and your shocks can take. So what I want you to do is give them a call and just chat with them. Talk to them about suspension. Their number is 702-506-5354. If you're not ready for a phone call, go ahead and shoot them an email, bold.racing@yahoo.com. Safety is our overriding priority. I hear it all the time, but I have to ask myself, is it though? Is that the first thing we think of? Is that the first thing you think of? Over the past couple of years, we've seen the performance of production UTVs increase, somewhere around 350%. That means these machines give us a lot more opportunity to have fun and win races, but it also, unfortunately, gives us new opportunities to crash. And that's why we have partnered with Crash Addict Industries. The owner, Travis Pointer, became very accustomed to crashing early in his career. He saw it as inevitable, and he set out to make the process safer. With a passion for racing, welding, and engineering, Crash Addict Industries now produces full cage and other protection systems intentionally designed to protect you during an accident on the track. They also offer a line of human protection products through their vendors. Do this for me at this point. If you're racing with a stock cage right now, please go check out crashaddict.com and at least see what they have to offer. Even if you choose to go with a different company, please make safety your overriding priority. Have you ever been out on the trail or at the track or in the middle of the desert and something breaks? Well, of course you have. We've all been there. But a lot of people at that point, they reach into their trusty toolbox for the duct tape or the zip ties or wrenches to fix their machine. However, there's a feeling that you get when you realize you need more than just duct tape to fix that rock chip in your radiator. That's a horrible, horrible feeling to have. And that's why I'm going to tell you next about SolderWeld's metal bonding products, specifically alloy sol. So this product gives you a longer term fix than JB Weld, which is just going to get you back to the trailer or back to the pits. With basically the assistance of MAP gas or propane torch, you can quickly and easily repair an oil cooler, radiator, AC line, or any crack or hole in aluminum. And better yet, alloy sol flux is the only flux in industry that cleans and decontaminates the dirty and greasy surface for you. So you don't even have to worry about that part. The alloy sol rods are actually capable of a 30,000 psi fix and they're stronger than even the parent metal, and they're built to last the lifetime of the part. So don't let a simple radiator leak leave you out of the race or broken down in the trail. Bring along some alloy sol, aluminum alloy repair rod and flux from SolderWeld. I don't know about you, but I absolutely can't stand cleaning the mud, filth, grime, goo, garbage off my machines after I go for a ride. It's just frustrating. It takes a lot of time. That's why I'm going to talk to you about Armor Kote next. Armor Kote is designed to help prevent mud, clay, ice, and other grime from sticking to your machine. It makes the cleanup quick and easy. It makes the machine actually look fantastic, and beyond that, it smells phenomenal. I don't know how to describe it, like bubble gum or something like that. It smells great. If you want to know more about Armor Kote, visit armorcoatproducts.com, and you will see their entire product line, all the offerings. Armor Kote is also working on some new stuff. They're soon going to release a solution made for coating the helmet and visor, and also one for wheels to help prevent mud buildup for high temp areas. So make your move now. Go to armorcoatproducts.com. Make a decision that's going to allow you to shorten the amount of time that you spend cleaning so that you can increase the amount of time that you spend riding and racing. All right, well, welcome everybody. We are back now with Heat 2, and at this point, we're going to get into some of the tactics, the strategies, the tips, the tricks around attracting and retaining sponsors. So, Cory, right now, I mean, you've already mentioned some of the people that you're working with, but who are some of your sponsors or some of your partners?
My big ones, Monster Energy, Arctic Cat, Speedwerx, Fox. Gosh, I'm not looking at one of my snowmobiles right now. I don't want to forget anybody, but Motorfist. That's really the bulk of my big ones there.
Yeah, and just for people listening right now, I like to draw in connections of how like people end up getting on the show or how we end up making connections. So through Speedwerx, one of your sponsors, one of the guys that works there, Casey Edwards, him and I had been talking back and forth. We were actually talking about clutching and stuff for my sled. He was helping me figure some things out, and he listens to the show, and he was like, "Man, you should really talk with Cory Davis." And I was like, "Yeah, like that sounds good. Can you help me with that?" And here we are. So it's interesting how those connections happen. So, and I don't even remember how I got connected with Casey. I think it might have just been through the podcast. He commented on something. I made another. Oh, I think you know what it was. He put up a picture of a Black Cat snowmobile that he was working on, and I was like, "Man, this is so cool!" Because I'm a Arctic Cat guy as myself, and he put that up, and we started connecting from that point. And then yeah, like I said, things just kind of snowball. Now we're on the phone right now, and who knows who I'll talk to in a year because of this conversation too.
Oh, it's just all about connections. I mean, that's really at the end of the day what everything is in sponsorship and anything. It's just all about making those connections with people. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Well, another thing I like to do in the show is talk about how those connections are initially formed. Especially with some of these sponsors. I mean, some of the I mentioned before that working with the OEM group, that's kind of like a pinnacle of sponsorship sometimes. But other ones are, the major energy drink brands. Monster, Red Bull, Rockstar. Those brands fuel a big part of motorsports. So, you connected with Monster. Is that one that you could kind of walk us through how that connection actually happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was my actual fiance was a Monster girl at the snowcross races, and we had met. She's from Alaska. She was down there because of me, but and I had gotten to know the snowmobile guy at the time was a guy named Alex Dunstan, and he's no longer with Monster, but he was the guy that handled the sledding, and he was at the races with Tucker and things like that. And at the time, I was riding freestyle shows during halftime of the. So I was racing, and then also doing the freestyle halftime show, and then racing. Yeah, and so I think they thought that they were going to get a pretty good bang for their buck with me, being that I was going to be, the one of the key things the things that we have as freestylers is instead of there being 15 guys out on the track and maybe you get the lead and maybe the cameras are on you, it's pretty much always going to be on you if you're out there freestyling, even if you're not the best dude. So, and I was kind of known for my whip or whatever. And I think Monster was, they're pretty pro whip. And so I think that, they saw me as a good little marketing tool to get some good coverage. And so that I actually, I wasn't pursuing that. To be completely honest, at that time in my career, I guess that was almost one of those things that seemed bigger than real life. You know, I don't know if I ever thought I would have actually been a energy drink branded rider. So, and not just any energy drink. If I could have picked one at that time or any time still, I would say I'd want to be a Monster athlete. So that was a pretty surreal phone call. That's something I'll never forget. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I like that you said that. You didn't think that it was even possible. Like that was kind of larger than life. And then it's just kind of happened. I think that's important for people to remember in their, career, is that you might not think you're the clear answer to, an energy drink marketer's plan, or you might not think that you're the next person that they're going to come reach out to and talk to, but you don't know. I mean, there's sometimes you do things that catch people's attention. Like in your case, you were doing the freestyle and the race, and that offered some more exposure. And maybe you didn't really know that was going to be the case when you first started doing both of those activities.
No, yeah, I was just doing it because I enjoyed it. And to be completely honest, it still seems crazy a little bit to me. I mean, I'm entrenched in the company and know everybody really well and know all the people, and but still, it just seems it's every once in a while it's kind of weird that I'm a Monster athlete. So it is a strange thing, and at that time there wasn't very many energy branded riders. You had your main ones, you had Levi and Tucker, and but now there's there's 7 guys or so on the Monster team, and that was Durant, I guess, had always been on there, but it was just there was a lot less people that were sponsored. So, it was the very upper echelon of guys that were sponsored when I got it. So it was a true honor, but, it's still an honor to this day.
No, it's cool. What about, this is going back further in time, but what about Arctic Cat?
Arctic Cat was, my dad was riding Arctic Cat, so I rode Arctic Cat when I very first started. And he had some, with Iron Dog, he had some really good relationships with, engineers and people, high up in the company, Kirk Hibbard and, guys like that. So, it was, I was on the entry sponsorship program, as being a junior or whatever. I was running sport and things like that. So, we were sponsored, but we were still buying sleds, and just kind of one of them things where I only ever rode Arctic Cat my entire life, I guess. And went out there and performed well in front of them. After having solid finishes on my own, doing my own thing. I mean, you're not gonna be picked up factory as a sport rider, but they're guys like Mike Kote are constantly watching those lower classes and seeing, the progression of each rider. And hindsight now, it's easy to kind of see the trajectory that, maybe I was on, and other guys that I grew up, like Brett Bender and kids like that were, I'm not quite sure why Brett popped into my head, but there was, Dan Ebert, there was a bunch of us that kind of all came up together and, moved through the ranks and everything. So, I think just being consistent, and then, I think the big one that kind of put me over the edge, I think, with maybe earning that spot was going from sport to semi-pro, and then going from sport podium to going to semi-pro podium. I think I got second in Geneva. And I think that when they see kids are able to transition up to a class, they like seeing that, and then performing as well.
Oh, that's good stuff. Well, a lot of what the sponsorship looks like today is kind of centered around social media. I mean, there's just a lot of activity that happens with social media. So I like to pull out examples in this show of people who, are doing well at social media, and basically I try to figure out what their strategy is. So can you kind of walk us through that? I mean, how do you plan your content, or how do you do social media?
So the landscape when I started, like when I was even picked up by Monster, I don't know if Instagram even existed.
Right.
I'm one of those weird ones where my personal Facebook is maxed out just from when I was racing. That's how everybody found out what you were doing. So all the fans and stuff when I was, semi-pro and pro were just adding my personal Facebook. So I've kind of learned just by failing forward, I guess, with it. And I've had some help with, I'm pretty intuitive with it, naturally, but also, I'm involved with a production company, Hybrid Color Films, and they specialize in digital marketing and things of that nature. So I've learned a lot of stuff from one of the owners there at that company, Travis. So, we've kind of helped each other grow the brand. And, I always joke around and I guess it's, joking, but not really. I mean, I'm mediocre at a bunch of different things with snowmobiling, but one thing I've always been, probably more than a lot of people, is I've always been, try not to be very fake. And even if that does come off a little brash and, not PC, I've always kind of been my true self. And I think that must, relate with a lot of people. I've come from a, construction family. I drive truck and batch concrete and, do all that stuff all summertime. And so I'm blue collar, and, it just seems that my personality might transcend with a lot of people more than anything that I do. At least is my perception. I don't really know. And I'm a pretty personable guy. So.
Oh, that's good. I did confirm you're at the 5,000 mark still. I just went and tried to add you while we were talking, and I got the old message. This person has reached the friend request limit. You have to clear some people out, man.
I know it's unfortunate because I run into that quite often, and it just I'm sure there's probably something you could do with Facebook, but the problem is I've met so many people through my travels and stuff that guys I've met in Russia and in Sweden and stuff like that I'd never find them again, if I just deleted everything and started over. So It is what it is. I've really come to, I have all the social medias, but I really just love Instagram. I love sharing pictures and videos, and that's really what I enjoy. I'm not, besides personal stuff and trying to find employees, I'm not really that much into Facebook, but I love sharing pictures, and that's really, my true passion is getting out in the mountains and riding. That's what I love to do. So make cool stuff.
Yeah, that's been a pretty popular platform for people on the show. Actually probably for almost every guest, the Instagram platform has performed better for them from an engagement standpoint than the other platforms, because I think the motorsports world is pretty visual. It's especially like freestyle and backcountry. There's some pretty beautiful sites that come out of that, and that's the Instagram platform is like the cleanest way to capture that.
And that's, outside of myself using it for my game, that's what I enjoy. If, the people I follow, that's how I like to intake stuff from other people, is through Instagram. So I think that's why I have a hard time with Twitter, because I don't really enjoy Twitter. And a lot of that is an Alaskan thing. Like, I think Alaskans use Facebook like everywhere else in the world uses Twitter. So that's a little strange, but I enjoy Instagram probably too much, and that's probably why that's what I stick to. But it is weird going from where, when my career started, social media was non-existent, and now it's the first thing that anybody cares about.
Yeah, it is crazy. And some people that I talk to in here have never lived or I guess never tried to promote themselves in the world outside of social media. And some people, that's where they thrived at, was in the world outside of social media. So it's a whole different different ball game. I've never tried to promote anything that I've done outside of social media before, so I'm even used to it as being just like this. I guess I take it for granted. I take it for granted how easy it is to reach people. Like, I mean, I spoke earlier about Casey Edwards. I mean, I was able to reach him very, very easily through Facebook, and even right now, I mean, honestly, like I just said, I opened up Facebook and tried to add you as a friend to see if you were still at that limit, and that's 10, 12 years ago. Well, maybe 12 years ago now. That wasn't an option.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting dynamic, and I mean, I personally think that there is way too much precedence put on social media for how it attributes to your value for somebody, because there's so many. I personally know people and friends that I've had that have bought followers and stuff like that, and I got to sit back and just laugh my butt off when Instagram went through and cleaned up all those bots and guys are losing thousands and thousands of followers, and but right there was a great example for me. I never try to think that having followers or anything like that is cool, because I mean it is, at the end of the day, it is nothing. It's worth nothing. You're talking millions of people, you can monetize it a little bit, but with the, maybe some of the upper guys in Tucker and Levi and Durant, those guys might be able to monetize it a little bit with stuff. But really what you're talking about is that you can't sell it for any real money. So I try not to get too hung up on it and worry about it. I just try to really, at this point in my career, and honestly, for the most part, for my entire career, trying to set myself up to where what I'm doing is I'm having fun and enjoying my time. And everything, when I'm treating it like that, it seems to kind of all work itself out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I think people struggle sometimes too with figuring out what to put on social media. I mean, you've kind of given some examples of, kind of be yourself and try to capture what you're actually doing. But I mean, how do you consciously think of what images you're going to post, and do you pick a certain time of day that you post, or is there certain days that are more successful for you? I mean, do you get to that level of detail?
I know those things just purely from the project Winter, the film I did with Hybrid Color Winter Project. Mm-hmm. So I know those things purely because when we were pushing that and trying to fund that Kickstarter, we were 110% all in and guerrilla tactics on social media. So I do know those things, but no, I am very bad. I luckily ride with people that take pictures of me sometimes, because usually when I'm out in the mountains or whatever having fun, I'm the last guy to be like, hey, do you mind taking a picture of me? And a lot of times what I end up doing is taking a picture of my sled if I do remember it, because I don't want to ask anybody to take a picture. So I definitely could be better about that and probably should be. But it I don't know, not consciously. No, I more of like, I don't think I posted anything for a couple days. Oh yeah, sure haven't, and in the summer times I get into the work drag and I'm not doing a whole lot of, quote unquote, fun stuff besides, working. And then, so, little few dirt bike stuff here and there, but my summer times are occupied a lot. So, I mean, I have lulls in my a lot of throwbacks during the summertime, but, I think the most important thing that I found with social media, just with my experiences with it, is, to be authentic and not, I always, to keep the corniness down as much as you can, because the people that are intaking it are just like you and me. They're just, want to look at cool things. I mean, that's what I follow. And so, just try to, as cliche as it sounds, keep it real, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we hinted a little bit at this, the outside of social media piece. So what are some of the things that you do to market yourself or your sponsors that don't necessarily make it in the social media world?
A lot of times, specifically with like, backcountry riding, which is probably where I interact with the most people. I'm the first person to take my sled out, try it out. Yeah, it's got the Speedwerx can on it, that kind of thing. And anybody that's interested, I'll spend the time with you unless the snow is really, really good. Then you got to wait till I'm out of fuel to talk. But if it's a chest deep day, then I got other stuff to do until I'm run out of fuel. But really, anytime anybody wants to talk or ride my stuff or look at it or talk nuts and bolts, then I always make myself available. And I've let, I probably got on one sled. I've probably got other people have probably more miles than I do on it. So I think that's the most important thing. And, so luckily I really enjoy Monster. So that one's easy. I just always am drinking them because I like them. So,
right.
But outside of that, I'm always riding cats and always got the Speedwerx stuff on it and wearing my Motorfist gear. And, it's helped me be involved with companies that are good because you don't have to be deceptive with people. I ride for the best snow machine brand. I wear the best snow machine gear, the best energy drink company, the best aftermarket accessories for my snow machine. It makes my job really easy when I don't have to upsell anything because their products are quality. So, but I was able to position myself to do that to where I wasn't having to sidestep around facts and stuff with a subpar company. So that's been my biggest thing is being involved with companies that are upper echelon, and it makes my job easier when I'm dealing with those guys.
I mean, it's such an important topic, honestly. And for people listening right now, if this is the first time you've heard this show, definitely go back and listen to other ones. And I promise you will hear that same statement. Sometimes people say the same thing. Maybe they're riding Polaris. Maybe they've got climb gear. But like the important thing is that you as the athlete, the sponsored athlete, truly believes in the product that they're using and trying to sell. Because if you try to sell something that you don't truly believe in, and it's going to come across as inauthentic. I mean, people can read that. I mean, when people say things are scammy, a lot of times that's what it comes down to is someone's trying to sell something that they don't actually believe in. When you see something that's just a natural promotion, you don't even know what's happening most of the time. That's when it's you've made the right connection.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're all different shades of gray. I mean, there isn't a bad snowmobile that's being produced right now. They're all great. I'm not trying to be that guy. That goes back to I've always tried to be as authentic as possible. I personally think they're the best. Are Polaris bad? No. Skidoo bad? No. They're all great. They're amazing sleds. What sleds do nowadays is absolutely amazing. But I'll be the first to tell you about what I think about my cat and what I think is better. And I think that's the most important thing. And it's not always the case. It hasn't always been the case with me that I've been on what I thought was the best, but that's where I'm at now in my life and in my career. And I feel, pretty blessed to be there. And I'm truly thankful to my sponsors and I have a full life and career outside of my snowmobile career. And that has been probably the biggest thing for me to be able to be in this position is that I'm not reliant on snowmobiling. So if that means that I don't have I have a gear sponsor, but if I didn't for a year and I bought gear, okay, that's not, It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world for me. I would rather, not be into a contract that I didn't want to be into or wasn't super into than I'd rather just buy it. I wear Bell helmets. They're not a sponsor of mine. But my head is a very important part of my, I think that's where, the helmets have come such a long ways, and you look at like Roxon's crash and some of these guys that have had just absolutely insane crashes and have walked away, is a true testament to the helmet technology. And I think that, that just for instance, I don't have a sponsor, but I will gladly buy a Bell helmet. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Actually, it made me think of something I saw the other day on social media. It was, I think it was called Donut Media. It's a
yeah,
new thing that I discovered, and the guy on there, I think they may have been working with Science Garage. Hopefully I'm getting this right, but they did this episode where they cut open, a cheaper helmet, and then which met the minimum safety requirements, but then they cut open, obviously a much more advanced helmet that it was just, the difference was shocking, and they ran tests on it and stuff beforehand, and they showed like what the brain damage would look like from certain impacts, and I was blown away. I mean, I've always believed in having a good helmet, but I guess I was shocked at how much better a good helmet is than a bad helmet.
well, it's kind of amazing that there isn't a ranking system that's a
Yeah.
certified ranking system for helmets. There is nothing that exists like that. You can't go and a 5-gallon bucket with some foam on it inside will meet a DOT spec. So it's unfortunate there isn't a 100-point scale or something, and right on the helmet it's a 93 or whatever. So you know what you're getting. You just kind of have to take the manufacturer's word for it, which with something like a helmet, I don't think that that's maybe the best system to have. It would be cool if there was a third party, studies that were done, and there's so many variables, I guess, but there has to be a way. I mean, the NIP system is there's things like that you can know as a customer, but man, it would truly be cool to see all the major helmets tested under the same test and laid out, first to last, to see where, it would just help the consumer a lot. Cause I agree with you. I don't think a lot of people know what they're wearing. It says DOT or Snell or something on it, but a bicycle helmet makes those ratings. So.
Right. Yeah. It's, until I saw that video, I never really comprehended how different the helmets can be. So in the video, it's not like the one that they tested that was the minimum specifications, that it didn't look like it was a bad helmet. It still looked like a legitimate helmet. I don't know. It's crazy, but I digress. So the next thing that I want to talk about is return on investment. You said it earlier, like, we're here to sell products, whether it's snowmobiles or Monster. How do you do that for your sponsors? I mean, you talked earlier about having good conversations with people and talking positively about the product, but like, how do you deliver an actual return on investment for them?
Every sponsor is going to be different on that, and you'll see a lot more of that kind of stuff, probably for guys starting out and first kind of getting involved. You'll probably be answering those questions more. The more you advance in your career, and the I guess higher up in the rankings you move or whatever, your job will get easier at getting sponsors, and the ROI, or the return on investment, is going to get a lot. It's just going to be more of it doesn't have to be talked about, because you're going to have shown in the past with previous, past experiences with other places, and how you do that. And a lot of times, by the time you get to the relationship that I have with, my main sponsors, that, it's just a general understanding that I'm going to make sure that, everything I can do is to make their company look good and sell things. So, and that's really what I think has driven the social media, the infatuation with social media, and how many followers do you have? And it's unfortunate, because when you got 20,000 followers, but you paid for 10 of them, you're lying to that person. And in the long run, it's very easy to see, in my opinion. I mean, when you have so many followers and you're getting you're guaranteed about 10% of likes if you have a normal page of your followers, and it's pretty easy to look at that and see, oh, okay, well, you're not getting near that. So
right.
The vast number of Instagram users don't like stuff. It's just kind of how it is. I mean, it slows you down if you're liking stuff. So, but yeah, I don't know, that the ROI, that's a tough one, minus just using it for what you're doing. And I think that's what's carried racing a lot of years, is that, it's easy to say, I'm going to this race and this race and this race, and there's going to be people at each one of those looking at it. But, really those are just family members a lot of times of the other races. So the social media has been great in that aspect, because if you have a following, then you're able to show off your stuff easily. And quickly, everything is moving more towards now. And we're getting away from even doing videos at the end of the year and releasing them in the fall, because just put them out as you're filming. So,
right.
And so that it does just more, it's kind of this weird, infinity loop where it just all kind of comes back to, well, you better have a lot of social media followers, because that's pretty much, and that's all I do now, really, honestly. I don't film for many videos outside of Arctic Cat. And it's just kind of all social media, without, minus X Games and Iron Dog and things like that. So it's a little bit of a conundrum, and I don't have a great answer for it. But, I think, if you're authentic with yourself and your social media and your followers, and have fun and don't take anything too seriously, it kind of, it bleeds through. And, in my experience, I think people enjoy the authentic guy on Instagram or social media in general.
Yeah, and one takeaway that I'd have from that, and you said it a couple times, is being real is one way of like how you can act on social media, but don't pay for followers. You're right. I've seen accounts, they've got, like you said, 20,000 followers. They put up a picture and it's 5-6 likes, and you're like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah.
And you can tell, right? And sponsors know this. They're gonna look at your followers. They're gonna scroll through the list. You can see everybody's followers. I'm pretty sure. And if you start seeing all these weird made up looking things like Insta followers and like followme.com, and it's fake, right? But then you can look at other people's sites who have good engagement. You can look at the people who are engaging, and you're like, oh, okay, that's let's say if it's let's say it's Monster Energy sponsoring a Supercross race, and you go through and you see 200 people on that list that are all riding dirt bikes. And that's a legitimate account. So if you're listening right now and you've done that, just know other people know too. You're not hiding it. You're not hiding it.
It's a weird thing that I think that a lot of people think it is harmless. You're not going to hurt anybody except yourself.
You're right. Right.
It is very easy to see. I mean, and everybody on Earth has a X number of bots that follow you. It's
right.
spam. It happens. Yeah. I mean, I'll probably get called out, and somebody will be screenshotting me stuff about people that I have. But when you have, it's a scabby thing to do. And, but I mean, like I said, it doesn't really hurt anybody, and besides yourself, and you can very easily tell. So it's a product that there's just being way too much stigma with, or precedence put on that stuff, and it forces it. It was the easiest fix to the problem for a lot of people, obviously. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing that I just want to make sure that I relay properly too is when we're talking about buying followers or whatever, we're not talking about like boosting posts or anything like that. I mean, I know some people build that into their programs where you boost posts, but when you boost them, you're targeting a market that either your followers that match your followers, or you're targeting a market that your sponsor would be linked to. So that's not what I'm talking about when I say, yeah, if you're boosting posts and stuff, yeah, that's a whole different story. That can be a really good thing.
yeah, we're talking about $100 and buying 5,000 followers or whatever.
Right.
I don't know what they cost, but there's websites out there all day. So for that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's good stuff. I'm going to transition in the main event, but I'm going to make it kind of short, just because we're kind of hitting the timing right now. But I do want to ask one question that I think is a big one for people. I think it's important in any sponsorship program. I also think it's important just in life, and that's around what's next for your motorsports career. I know a lot of sponsors are interested in, like, what's your growth path? Where do you see yourself in a couple of years? They want to grow with you. So that's why I asked this question. So for you, Cory, I mean, what do you think is next for you in your motorsports career? And then the sub question to that is, how do you know that you're headed in the right direction?
So I think moving forward, I'll probably there's a couple cross country races I'd still like to do. The Sioux, a couple checks I'd like to check off for wins, or try to win, I guess, and continue with X Games. I can kind of see myself moving, not immediately, but I'd like to move out of X Games, and at least in the freestyle part of it. Maybe speed and style is something I continue to do for a while, or when they have it. And start doing Iron Dog, and maybe focusing a little bit more on being in Alaska more, and riding more, and spending more time in the mountains. But I don't really know. I vacillate back and forth on what I want to do there, but definitely continue to just do the stuff I want to do. Things I'm into and that I'm passionate about. And, I've found that's the best way to yield the best results for myself personally is be into what I'm doing. Anytime I start getting, feeling kind of trapped or forced, and, I don't think that's the best place for me to be. And probably not very many people would perform well under those circumstances. So, moving forward, I think just continue riding as much as possible. We still got a lot of riding left up here in Alaska for all filming and stuff like that. So, really, I don't have, I guess, a solid answer, because I'm not really sure where the path leads me. But I've kind of figured it out as I've gone this far. So I'll keep that keep that up. But one thing I do know for sure is Ryan and I are looking forward to coming back to the Iron Dog. We took a year off this year. Just kind of felt that we weren't going to be able to give it. I have a very busy work schedule this year and last year, and Ryan did as well. And didn't really feel like it was going to be an honest effort. And I feel like I owed that race more than kind of a 80% effort. And especially, it was a little kind of easier to justify it when we hadn't won. But as champions, I didn't want to come back and at least not have given it a good, solid 100% effort. So we took a break, and I don't know if we'll be back this year, but we will be back for that to defend our title, and hopefully repeat our win. And like I said, maybe a couple other races as well with that.
No, that sounds great. Another reason why I asked that question is I think people they assume that their idols or the people that they follow on social media, that they 100% have everything figured out. And it's, I don't know, probably 95% of the time that's not the case. And that's okay. I think it's good to have a vision. I think it's helpful to have a vision for yourself and for communication to your sponsor, but to have everything figured out, like, it's just I don't know if it exists. I don't know if there's anybody that's out there that has that.
No, I mean, life's complicated, and there's lots of curveballs that come your way. And I mean, with this sport, there's races appear and disappear, and events come and go at X Games. And so it, for that, in that aspect, it's not always, there used to be snowcross at X Games. There isn't now. So,
right.
Sometimes it's hard. You can't plan for everything. So being able to roll with the punches and be flexible is an important thing.
Definitely. Well, I really appreciate that. Actually, I think it's time to kind of close things out. So we're at the finish line now. What would you say, Cory, is one thing that, if the listeners forgot everything else that you said, what's one thing that they should take away from this conversation?
With my life, my career, it's been, like I said, authenticity. That's huge with me. But another thing is, I think the biggest thing, eye opener for me was, I didn't kind of realize that the passion had left me with me there with snowcross, and it was a pretty scary space in my life, because that is really all I had ever known up to that moment, from the time I was, 10 years old or 8 years old was racing. And now I'm talking about stepping away from it and doing something completely different that I have no experience in. And, for the most part, no experience in. And, so it was a really scary thing, but, I had to look, kind of inside myself and see if that's really what I wanted. And I don't think you're ever going to know, but, it worked out, but kind of a leap of faith. It was definitely a hard thing to do, but, I knew, I didn't know if it was the right decision, but I knew that, my time racing snowcross wasn't going to be anymore, just with, the lack of passion I had for it, or the lack of drive, I guess, or whatever it may be. And, so don't be too scared of change and taking a different route and taking a different path, or, if it's something you've always, different racing circuit or whatever it may be, it might be scary because it's new, but it doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah, definitely. I just wrote down a note here because it resonated with me. Don't be scared of change. Sometimes I think it's helpful just to say it out loud too every now and then, because there's so many things that come up in life that you're like, it's a little freaky, but it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, I took that leap and, ended up meeting, two of my closest friends. And I knew them before, but, became two of my best friends, my brothers, Heath Frisbee and Joe Parsons. I mean, those dudes are absolute brothers. And I would have never, got to spend those years training and living in Yakima with those guys had it not been for taking the leap and going for it. So, a lot of amazing things have come from that. When I was standing on the starting line of my first X Games in snowcross at 16 years old, if you would have told me I'd had 6 X Games medals, I would have never believed it, because and none of those come from snowcross racing, So at the time, it seemed like it was probably a pretty unobtainable thing. But looking back, it's kind of funny to see.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Cory, what's the best way for people listening to connect with you?
At CD6 at everything, but find me on Instagram for the most up-to-date stuff usually.
Perfect. Well, Cory, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story today. I also appreciate you sharing some notes on, the Iron Dog race, the whole endurance snowmobile thing. Again, and for me, it's a little selfish, but I'm very intrigued in that whole sport. That's it, though, man. At this point, I'm gonna leave you with this: have fun and ride safe.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast. Be sure that you subscribe. That's the best way to ensure that you don't miss upcoming guests. We have Blair Morgan and Brett Q both coming up. These are definitely two that you are not going to want to miss. Also, in the next episode, I'm going to be sharing some massive news. But not yet. So you got to listen to the next one. You got to listen to the Blair Morgan podcast to know what's going on. Please head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review. That does wonders for the show. If you have questions or guest recommendations, shoot me an email, podcast@impactfuel.org. If you want to get insider access to upcoming guests, check out the Sponsored Rider Club on Facebook. And then you can head over to the podcast Facebook page to get access to our live videos. We just had George Hamill on, and he killed it. A special thanks goes out to our sponsors, Armor Cote, SolderWeld, Bold Racing, TopThePodium.com, and Crash Addict Industries. Also want to give a quick shout out to our other sponsors, MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, and One Stop Performance. Make sure you're following us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Facebook is where we go live. But that's it. I look forward to serving you again next week. Have fun and ride safe.